Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Chilson. I am Director of Communications for the Citizens Utility Board, or CUB. Welcome to CUB's members only event. We had a lot of signups. We're very excited to talk about this, and we have some great speakers tonight. Tonight's topic is a hot one, electrifying your home. You're hearing more and more about electrification and the benefits of electrification. We're going to dive into that topic and talk about it. We're also going to talk about solar power and all the different ways in Illinois you can take advantage of the power of the sun. But first, I just want to say, consider this event a big thank you to all of you, our CUB members, for supporting all the important work of advocating for consumers. I don't know if you saw, but today we were in both the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Sun-Times. Our legal team has filed expert testimony arguing that ComEd's proposed rate hike, it's a record high rate hike. Nobody has ever had a rate hike this high, and we have proposed cutting it by more than 60%, or nearly $1 billion. All of you are partners in that good work, so thank you. And believe me, I've watched Eric and Laura working very hard, and they very much appreciate all the support you give us, so thank you. So tonight we're going to talk about electrifying your home, what electrification means, why CUB supports it, and how you go about it. Electrification is also about making our energy cleaner, so we're going to talk about some great new programs like Illinois Solar for All, Community Solar, and CUB's new group buy program. And don't forget, at the end of the night, we're going to have a giveaway. And here's the breaking news. It's not going to be just one giveaway, but 3 giveaways. So stick around. We're going to do this giveaway at the end. We're going to randomly select some people to win some great prizes. So we've got a lot of ground to cover, but quickly, I just want to tell you about the CUB team who's on tonight. First of all, she's not pictured here, but Elizabeth is behind the scenes tonight. She is our digital communication strategist. She puts a lot of educational videos out. You've probably seen them, and has worked very hard on a number of guides, including our statewide Better Heat Guide and our guide on the Inflation Reduction Act. Thanks for being here and working so hard on this event, Elizabeth. David is our carbon-free buildings coordinator. He joined CUB after 10 years of active duty service with the Marines. He focuses on building electrification policy and educating consumers about electrification and energy efficiency. Just last night, he was in Skokie talking about geothermal energy. Marina is a UW-Madison graduate with a degree in chemistry and environmental studies. She is our solar programs coordinator, and she helps coordinate CUB's solar group buy program and educates consumers about clean and affordable energy. And finally, last but not least, we're going to start off tonight with Samantha, or Sam. Sam stays very busy as our outreach and communications coordinator. She staffs events across Illinois, serving customers in both English and Spanish. And when she's not doing that, she's organizing CUB's communications program to Spanish-speaking utility customers. She says that she enjoys being a CUB spokesperson on clean energy and saving money. So Sam, I don't know how you do it, but we're going to lead off with you. You're going to answer 2 questions. What is electrification, and why does CUB support it? Go ahead, Sam.
Thank you, Jim, and that was a great presentation. Well, yes, I'm going to be answering those 2 questions, and it's really simple. What is electrification? Well, this is the process of replacing all fossil-fueled equipment at home for their electric counterparts. Switching to electricity to run our home means that we get more cleaner sources of energy and more affordable resources like solar or wind to improve the indoor air quality and to protect our pockets from the high gas cost, for sure. So if we can move to the next slide. So why does CUB supports clean energy? Or why this, sorry, not clean energy, electrification, which is part of it. I think it's very important to mention that thanks to the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, CEJA, this transition is possible within the state. So it's basically in hard words, pushing all the Illinois residents to make this electrification happening. However, it's not leaving them alone. There's a lot of customer protections under this act. However, CUB supports it under three big reasons, along with the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. The first one, it's natural gas prices, the affordability of electricity, right? The volatile gas market has made customers to recurring price spikes and high charges, linked to aggressive utility spending, which means electricity is more affordable for the customers in Illinois, which is not going to be hard on their finances. It's a lot more affordable than gas. Another big reason is gas or natural gas is really bad for our health. There's a lot of outdoor and indoor problems. Outdoor meaning the environment, and indoor meaning our homes. Outdoor, the gas plants emit a lot of pollution that creates the smog in the air and cause respiratory problems for people. Like you cannot even even if you are a person that enjoys outdoor activities, you will be in a risk. And also indoor air pollution, and this is a new topic for me. I was reading about this topic and I didn't know that having a gas stove, if you're a person that cooks a lot at home, just like me, you are in a risk of getting respiratory problems as well. And this is more common with children. So that's another thing as well. And of course, the third and last reason is that natural gas and the effects that this one has in the environment are bad for the planet. So heating with gas is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, which is the number one damaging thing for the planet. And basically, RMI found that 10 states account for nearby 60% of greenhouse gas emissions from buildings, and Illinois ranks third. So that's a big number. So we can move to the next slide. Another thing that CUB is doing to support all this electrification, it's creating this clean energy page. The clean energy page, you can find a lot of resources related to renewable energy. You can find resources that CUB has created, like fact sheets on the different programs and different information about community solar, the heat pumps, also the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. You can also find general information about the energy efficiency programs that the utilities already have, energy efficiency tips, I personally love to work in these blogs in English and Spanish on giving people advice on how to be more efficient at home, making little and small changes, which is also a lot more affordable. And so this clean energy has been a lot of work between the communications and I think the outreach team as well. There's a lot of information right there, and we are always sending people to this CUB resource to let them know about all this information that is going to be really, really helpful under this electric transition. And now it's time to talk about energy efficiency.
So thank you, Sam. Just to go back to a couple things, and please feel free to jump in, panelists. But I also want to say, if people have a question, it's a good chance you're going to have questions tonight. Just pop them in the chat function if you have questions. And if we don't answer them during the presentation, we will set aside a little bit of time at the end to have a Q&A session. So please feel free to ask questions. And if you don't get your question answered this evening, please, you can call us at 1-800-669-5556 the next day. Say, I was part of this presentation. I have an additional follow-up question. We'll make sure that you get your questions answered. Thanks very much, Sam. The thing that it is amazing with, you were talking about that's new, that you've learned about the indoor air quality problems. There is a disturbing amount of research, a growing amount of research about just how how gas stoves can hurt indoor air quality. Of course, there's huge concern. It's an existential threat, climate change. As a consumer advocacy group, we also focus on affordability issues, and that has been huge. We talked about ComEd's rate hike earlier, and Ameren has a big electric rate hike. The gas utilities in the state are hitting customers with $900 million in rate hikes, proposed rate hikes that we are challenging. But also that comes after a long period, 2 years, where we were just hit with horrendous gas prices. Thankfully, the gas prices are starting to come down until they go up again. That will be an ongoing problem, just the volatility of the market. So there are a lot of compelling reasons for electrification. So David Weaver, you are going to talk, you and Marina are going to talk now about electrification getting started. David, one thing during your presentation I'd like to hear is that, eliminating gas heat and replacing it with electrical alternatives, that might seem big and scary to some consumers. But in our Better Heat Guide, we talked about taking incremental steps, gradual steps to move towards electrification. And you're going to talk about one of those first steps, energy efficiency.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Sam. Yeah, absolutely. These steps are really, really important. Certainly some of us may have the upfront money to do everything all at once, and that's wonderful. But for most of us, home energy improvements have to be incremental. And the nice thing is they work in tandem. And when you make these steps one by one, it can support all the other steps as you go through it. But the first thing really, as you start thinking about these home energy improvements, including electrification, you need to have a plan. And that plan comes from a home energy assessment or a home energy audit. The focus on these are typically going to be energy efficiency, because that's the very first step, because the cheapest and the cleanest energy is the energy that you don't need to use in your home. And when you're talking about investments for your home, every dollar you spend on efficiency statistically saves you $3 in energy costs overall. And how do you know what to spend on your home? Well, a home energy assessment is a free program that ComEd, NICOR, People's Gas, and for some consumers in Ameren territory can get for free, where an expert will come to your home, they'll walk around, they'll give you advice. They'll also bring with them some equipment that they'll install for free. But it's kind of a half step, because they're just walking around, looking around, answering your questions, but they're not going to test anything. The real gold standard for your first step is a home energy audit. Home energy audit, you're going to have a professional come to your home and test your building envelope. They're going to do a blower test on your door. They're going to walk around with an infrared camera so that you can literally see in real time where the heat is coming into your home or heat is leaving your home in the wintertime. And after they do all these tests and analysis, they're gonna provide you a really great battle plan to help determine which steps you should take first as you insulate and weatherize your home. Improve your light bulbs, LED light bulbs, or other good ways to save electricity. And the best thing is, there's no better time than now to do this, in large part due to Inflation Reduction Act incentives, which we'll discuss more near the end of our presentation today. So this home energy assessment that I talked about, some of the things that they're going to bring with them for free are some certified aerated shower heads and faucets, hot water pipe insulation, LED light bulbs. They're also going to bring some things at a discounted rate, like smart thermostats, which they'll give you cheaper than you could get if you went to Ace Hardware, for example. So all of these things are great. So even if you are planning to do a home energy audit, it's not bad to do a home energy assessment as well. And then that link in red at the bottom of the slide is the Department of Energy's website on home energy assessments and audits. It's really, really helpful, regardless of which way you go through, with the free home energy assessment or the home energy audit, which typically costs about $300 after you get a $150 tax credit for it. But it'll give you advice on what questions to ask the experts when they come to your home, how to prepare for their visit, as well as it also has a list of certified auditors on their website to help you find and make sure that you're getting a true professional to come to your home. So out of this home energy audit, they're going to give you a checklist similar to this one. This one was actually done by a friend of mine who's got a very new home. So there's not a lot that needs to be done into it, but it's a great example on what you can expect it to look like. If you look at the center of the slide, you see seal air leaks, insulate walls, and upgrade windows. What you're going to get is you're going to get an itemized list in priority order based on how much money it's going to save you versus how much it costs and what's that return on investment going to be. So for my friend here, you saw that the best investment for his home would be to seal some air leaks. It would cost him roughly $763 to get this fixed, and it would save him approximately $64 a year. And it would, the 1.7 is that, if the SIR is 1, it'll pay for itself by the time you have to replace it. But anything above that, it'll pay for itself before you have to replace it. So the bottom line is this is going to look different for every single home, but they're going to give you a prioritized list on the things you should do in your home to make sure that your home is energy efficient, as weatherized, and as insulated as possible, which is really important because if you are going to follow the later on electrification steps, it can help you save money by right sizing your future heat pump, or reducing the size of furnace. If you're just going to replace your furnace, any type of heating and cooling in your home, the better your insulation is. You might need a smaller one, a less expensive one, because your home is now much more weatherized. So this is why we recommend this as the first step. The next thing that you can do is manage your energy use. This is kind of the second step. So you really need to consider, when do you use the most electricity compared to when does society use the most electricity? So for example, most people in society, they potentially wake up, between 6 to 9 a.m. And you can see kind of on this chart, the bottom of the chart being the time of the day, and the higher it up is the use of it. So you can see the kind of waves as, after maybe 9 p.m. on the far right side, you see the electricity use is going down because people are going to bed. But then it starts to go up, around 5 to 9 a.m. But people wake up, they leave their home. Other people wake up, they leave their home, and then starting around noon, it starts to peak until 5 p.m., which we see is the greatest demand for electricity. To meet that demand, the ComEd and the regional electric suppliers, they need to turn on more power plants in order to meet that increased demand. The ones they turn on to meet that demand are the ones they don't have on normally. And they don't have these on normally because they tend to be the most expensive and the most polluting. And we call them peaker power plants. So particularly around 5 p.m., that's when these peaker power plants come on, which generally causes the price of electricity to go up. Now, most consumers in Illinois, regardless if you're in Ameren or ComEd territory, you're paying an average price. ComEd is not allowed to make a profit, neither is Ameren, on the supply of electricity. They are allowed to make a profit on the delivery, but they pass on their expenses to us. So when people use more electricity at 5 p.m., it's more expensive. It averages out to make our electricity more expensive. Now, there's a few programs which I'm going to talk about where you don't pay the average, right? You could actually end up paying less. And we'll talk about that in a moment, but it's really important to realize now, if you have a schedule that's not the typical schedule, if you work nights, for example, or perhaps you're retired and you can do, instead of your electricity use peaking at 5 p.m., it peaks at a different time, these programs can be extra beneficial for you. So I just wanted to explain, how the price of electricity changes throughout the day if you were paying the real-time price instead of the average price. So there's one program called Peak Time Savings. Both Ameren and ComEd have this program. The links are at the bottom of this slide, where the utility will alert you in advance, either via text or email, or however you set it up with the company, where you'll get hey, between 3 to 7 p.m. today, it's going to be a peak time savings hours. So if you use any electricity less than you normally use, they'll actually give you a credit for it. And they know how much electricity you typically use because almost everyone in Illinois has transitioned to a smart meter, which gives them that real-time data. So the nice thing is this program is all carrots and no sticks. So, if at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. you get that alert that says, hey, electricity use is, we expect it to be really high, so please don't use as much. And you decide, you know what, I can eat leftovers, I can hang out outside and turn my air conditioning off for a while. I don't need to watch TV now, or whatever you do, I'll do my laundry later. You'll actually save money, which is fantastic. However, if this just happens to be a time where you're going to be hosting a party, there's nothing to worry about here. There's no sticks involved with this. You're not going to get penalized for using more electricity during this time. It's only a incentive program. So it's a really nice program, and I actually recommend every single person sign up for this because there's no risk. This is nothing but reward. So it's a really, really terrific program. Now, similar to this, but with carrots and sticks, is hourly pricing. Hourly pricing is you get charged what the cost of electricity costs that hour instead of the average. Now, if you use electricity similar to how society uses electricity, you should probably end up about net even, where you're not paying more or paying less. But if during those peak times, that's when you need to use a lot of electricity, you could actually end up paying more. This program is really nice for people who have solar panels or someone who owns an electric vehicle. Rather than plugging in your electric vehicle to charge right when you get home, if you wait until right before you go to bed around 10 p.m. when the price of electricity starts dropping, instead of paying the average price of electricity, which right now is about 9 cents, you could be paying as low as 2 cents a kilowatt hour, and you could see a lot of savings. The really important thing with hourly pricing is to really think about when you use your electricity versus when the society use it. And if you can change it a little bit, you can see a lot of savings here. But also, this is a really great program because it can help people shift their behaviors to when electricity is cheaper. Why is this important? Because it can help all of us save money. It reduces stress on the grid, and we can hopefully avoid turning on some of those peaker power plants, which are, again, the most expensive and the most polluting. So just a closer up example from this state, you could see that at this time, actually during this day, electricity cost about, I believe it was 13 cents. So you could see anytime before noon, any electricity used would have been cheaper than the average price. But between 1 p.m. to really, 7 p.m., you would have paid a little bit more. Now, on the net of the day, maybe you end up a little less, maybe you end up a little more, but especially if you have an electric vehicle and you're going to be charging it at 10 p.m. right before you go to bed, you would have saved immense money. So it's a really great program, but it's not for everyone. And happy to talk more about this offline about your individual electricity use if you'd like, to see if this is the right program for you. Another program, this is only offered by ComEd, where the last two programs are offered both by Ameren and ComEd, but AC cycling. So what ComEd will do if you sign up for this program is during certain high peak times in the summer, between May 1st and October 31st, they will cycle off your air conditioner. What this means is that the fan is still blowing, but the air conditioner is not working as much. So it reduces your energy use, and it doesn't change the temperature in your home more than a few degrees. But they will pay you up to $40 a cycle for this. And they exclude weekends, they exclude holidays. And if it just so happens that this kicks on and you do notice it, and most people I talk to don't ever notice this, you could always go online and have them return it back on in moments. So it's another really great program that most people don't even notice that they're on, but they save $40. So once again, I recommend this for everyone in ComEd territory. And now I'll turn it over just for a couple slides on renewable energy to Marina.
Let me just jump in here, and I'm sorry, Marina, we will get to you, but there are a couple questions. David, first of all, that was great. That was one of the most amazing things I learned when I first came to CUB. It's not only is it important how much energy you use or how much you work to reduce your energy waste, but also when you use your energy. That is just a fascinating thing. And then also, David you mentioned the capacity charges. The fact that one of the big reasons our electric bills can be high is that we not only pay for power that we're using, but we pay for power that we may need sometime in the future if electricity demand goes through the roof. It's just fascinating. And the way there's all these shadowy groups like MISO and PJM, and not many people know about them. They're in charge of running these capacity auctions that lead to these capacity prices that we pay on our bills. And the way they set those prices isn't very fair to consumers. It's not very conducive to clean energy. It's one of the major things we're doing right now. The work we're doing is trying to advocate for consumers at this level of the power grid operators, MISO and PJM. So that's fascinating. Thank you very much. We did have a great question during your very thorough discussion here. Jim said, I had a home energy efficiency audit. He said it was done about 2001. It included a blower test. He had a complete written report, and he did pay for it. Would you recommend, David, or anybody on the call, would you recommend doing this again, doing a home energy audit again? He did it through the Energy Star program called Energy Wise Homes of Illinois. Go ahead.
Really great question, Jim. I appreciate you participating. You know, if it was my home, I think, you know, 22 years later, I would be willing to pay the $300 again to see if anything has changed. As homes age, sometimes they shift a little bit. You know, windows might be time to replace them. So if it was my home, I personally would do it again. Really great question. I saw your comment about the central AC cycling. That is a really great point. Some air conditioners do not work with this program. It's certainly something that you can check on the front end, but if it's a high efficiency model, it'll probably save you, you know, over its lifetime, much more than the $40 a year or so. You know, not necessarily a loss. Yeah, so typically we see the home energy audits costing somewhere between $350 to $600 across the state of Illinois, depending on the local labor prices. The big reason why it'll actually cost you roughly around $300 is because the Inflation Reduction Act passed by Congress last August provides a $150 tax credit towards it. Tax credit for those of you who waited till the last moment, like myself, and did your taxes just a few months ago. Not a tax deduction, which reduces how much of your income is taxable. It's tax credit, so it counts as taxes you've already paid. So it's even better than a deduction. That's why, you know, the price wouldn't have changed significantly in the last 20 years, is because of that really nice incentive from the federal government.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. David, by the way, took the lead along with Elizabeth on putting together the IRA guide. Our guide on the Inflation Reduction Act did a great job. We're going to put some guides in the chat. Please feel free to order them. They're all free. But if you don't get to them if the presentation ends tonight, always just go to citizensutilityboard.org, go under resources and go to the guide catalog. We have a ton of really informative guides, and we're always updating them. So thank you, David. So, okay, Marina, one of my favorite stories about Marina, live on WGN TV. And the quote I love is, I love talking about solar. So we're going to give her a chance to talk about solar again. So we're talking about electrification. Marina, what does renewable energy have to do with that?
Yeah, well, thanks, Jim, and thanks, David and Sam, for really setting the stage here and talking about electrification. So just to reiterate, when we're thinking about electrification, we're basically switching from fossil fuel powered appliances and HVAC systems over to electric. But what does the electric grid look like? Is it full of coal and natural gas as well, or is it a bit cleaner? So right now, I know both ComEd and Ameren, definitely their grids are looking at under 5% for solar. And luckily we did pass our Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which is requiring Illinois to hit 50% renewable energy by 2040. So the utilities are working on it, thanks to the state. Individuals are working on it. And how can you kind of take matters into your own hands and get involved with cleaning up that electric grid? One of the great ways is with solar. So here I just have a slide on the benefits of solar. Benefits of solar look similar to the benefits of switching away from natural gas. So first we have the environment. As most of you probably know, when we burn fossil fuels to power our homes and buildings, we are emitting carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. And other harmful greenhouse gases, which are all contributing to climate change. I think we can all agree climate change is bad. Hopefully I'm preaching to the choir here. Let's stop it by switching over to renewables. Second, jobs. There's going to be a really great opportunity for workforce development thanks to solar. CEJA, or the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, is also going to create 13 job training hubs across the state so that people can really get involved and enter that workforce. We're kind of moving slow on those hubs, but hopefully we'll hear more soon. Next is health, which Sam did a really great job hitting as well. So not only are we emitting carbon dioxide when we're burning these fossil fuels, but we're also emitting nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, and particulate matter emissions, both outside and in our homes. Those are all very harmful air pollutants. They're bad for our health. So let's get rid of them and stop burning those fossil fuels. And then finally, Jim mentioned this, but as consumer advocates, we're very interested in saving money for consumers. So right now, when going solar, first of all, there's really great state and federal incentives. Again, state incentives coming out of CEJA and federal incentives coming out of the Inflation Reduction Act. Going solar can also help to greatly reduce your monthly electric bills because you are now producing your own power from renewable source, which is the sun, and it never runs out. So you don't really have to pay for the sun, which is nice. And it can even increase the value of your home without increasing property taxes, thanks to a tax code here in Illinois. So you can go to the next slide and dig more into those state and federal incentives when it comes to solar. Awesome. So truly, there has never been a better time to go solar. So the first incentive we can dive more into is the state solar renewable energy credits, or SRECs. SRECs are coming out of a program called Illinois Shines, which was created back in 2016 with the Future Energy Jobs Act, and then expanded and re-upped again with CEJA. So CEJA is really our best friend here at CUB, and for people who are looking to go solar. So these SRECs can cover around 30 to 40% of the cost of going solar. The way it works is your installer will put those panels on your home, and they or an approved vendor that they work with will estimate the amount of electricity that those panels will produce over the course of 15 years. That'll be multiplied by a dollar amount, which is the value of the SREC, and you will receive that in the form of a check. So that money is coming from the state. It's essentially through Illinois Shines, which is the state incentive program. They want to give you this money so that you're incentivized to go solar and to help the state hit that goal of going 50% renewable energy by 2040. So that's a really significant chunk of money. One thing to note is that SRECs are considered taxable income, and they typically do have a processing fee. And sometimes the SREC contract process can be a little spooky as well. So you can always give CUB a call if you're confused or have any questions. Also on our rooftop fact sheet under the clean energy page, we have a little section about SRECs as well that I find pretty helpful. Next is that federal tax credit that covers 30% of project costs. That includes labor, system installation, and interconnection wiring. And thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, it now includes batteries as well. So you can save some money on your battery with this tax credit. This reduces what you owe on your income taxes. So you must have a tax appetite for it to be useful for you. And then another great thing we have here in Illinois is utility net metering. So essentially, anytime you produce excess electricity with your solar panels, that electricity will be sent back to the grid, and you will receive a credit on your ComEd or Ameren bill for that amount of electricity. It's one-to-one crediting, so you're being credited at the same rate that you're being charged for electricity, and those credits can roll over from month to month. So say in July, it's sunny every day, you produce double the amount of electricity you need. That'll all get stored on your bill, roll over, all the way till, say, January, when we don't see the sun one single day. That can still help to nearly net out your bill. there are two charges that cannot be netted out with net metering credits under the standard or fixed rate plan. That's the customer charge and the standard metering charge under the delivery section. But if you're on hourly pricing, which David mentioned earlier, then your bill can be completely zeroed out. So that's something to consider. Also, under fixed rate plan, those net metering credits will expire annually at the end of April. But with hourly pricing, they never expire. I believe only in ComEd, but they will still expire in Ameren. So another thing to note there. And another great thing we have in Illinois is that your homeowners association cannot outright block you from going solar in the state. So they can make it difficult and have a few rules that you need to get around, but they can't say no for no reason. That's kind of a bit about rooftop solar. And then one other thing I want to mention is that every summer CUB runs a group buy program here in Illinois, here in Northeast Illinois, Chicagoland, where we can gather our bulk purchasing power and secure a lower price for solar. And we're working with a company to kind of streamline our registration process and expand our reach. And that new website will be launching soon. But in the meantime, I'll send in the chat our current website. So if you sign up for information there, we'll reach out to you once that new website is ready. So I think that's all I have for this slide. Next, if you do not own a home, or maybe your home is not equipped for solar, there is a really great program called Community Solar. Again, it was created back in 2016 for Illinois with FEJA and re-upped with CEJA. So Community Solar allows you to virtually subscribe to a community solar farm as long as it is located somewhere in your utility territory. So it could be 100 miles away, but as long as you're ComEd and that farm is ComEd, you can still subscribe to it. And the reason is that that community solar farm is putting electricity onto the same grid that you're receiving your electricity from. So you're kind of indirectly powering yourself with clean energy, but I can't guarantee it's being routed straight to your home. When you do subscribe, your subscription or your portion of the farm will be sized based on your usage. So if you use a lot of electricity, maybe you'll get 30 panels, and if you don't use much, maybe you'll get 1 or 2. And each month when your subscription produces electricity, you will get a credit on your electric bill that's equivalent to the amount produced. So you get a lower utility bill, and then you also have to pay subscription fee back to the community solar company. But they're all offering discounts, either 10 or 20%. So say you save $100 on your utility bill, you'll pay $80 back to the community solar company, which is pretty nice because you get to pay less money for dirty electricity and spend it on clean electricity instead. And so next slide, just want to give a plug to CUB's website. Solarinthecommunity.com has all sorts of information about community solar. We have information about all of the companies, and we have this handy dandy comparison chart as well. So you can look at all those companies side by side and figure out which one is best for you. And then the last program I want to talk about is called Illinois Solar for All. So earlier, I know I've said FEJA and CEJA a million times, and I also mentioned Illinois Shines, which is the incentive program through the state. Solar for All is kind of a sister program to Illinois Shines. It's creating incentives for income eligible solar. So Solar for All really aims to make sure that income eligible households, nonprofits, and public facilities are able to access all of the benefits of solar, and just making sure no one is being left behind in this clean energy transition. So there are certain rules on how much you can pay and how much you can save, but the bottom line is that there are 0 upfront costs to be part of Solar for All, and it's going to be the absolute cheapest way that you can go solar. So if you are at at or below 80% area median income, you are eligible for this program. That depends on region and household size. So through the program, you can get rooftop solar, which right now, rooftop solar is free. You can get it for free, which is a little hard to believe, but the incentives are so good right now that the participating installers are able to pass off total savings to the consumer. So don't be fooled that the installers are just really good guys necessarily. They're making money too from this, thanks to the state. You can also do community solar. So rather than that 10 or 20% discount, you're getting a 50% discount through Solar for All. So you can visit illinoissfa.com to learn more, or CUB has an entire web page on it as well, which I think we just sent in the chat. And that I think is my last solar slide, but I also want to mention that we recently came out with our first ever solar guide, which is around 20 pages of everything you would ever want to know about solar. And yep, there's Jim holding it up. So you can also find that under resources and then guide catalog. But yeah, hopefully I have kind of demonstrated what like solar, it's good to go solar right now. And again, it's really important when we talk about electrification and building decarb as well.
So thank you, Marina. That was great. So detailed, and I really appreciate that and all your work. We have two questions. There's one, somebody's raising their hand. I believe Garrick is raising his hand, or their hand. If you could put a question in the chat, that would help us. We can answer your question. And if you need to call us tomorrow, we can answer it if you can't do that. But if you could try to put that question in the chat, that would be great. And then we have Elizabeth has a question. Can you get solar roof shingles?
Yep. So I think Elizabeth, you're referring to like the solar roof shingles. I do not know an installer who's doing that in Illinois yet. I've heard that they kind of go against Illinois rapid shutdown code, which requires solar panels to have the ability to shut down in case of the utility grid going down. So I don't think they have it figured out yet to come to Illinois, but it is pretty cool technology. So definitely keeping an eye on that.
Great, thank you. And then Jim has a question. You see that? Go ahead, Marina.
Yeah, Jim also asked for Solar for All. Does the homeowner own the system or is it a lease? So currently it would be a lease, which is kind of nice. For those of you who have not really heard of a solar lease, this is when the installer would put the panels on the home and they would remain the owner of the panel. So you would kind of pay a monthly rent in order to have those panels on your home and get the electricity and net metering from those panels. Usually we would kind of caution consumers when looking into leases because lease prices or monthly prices can be pretty shockingly high. I've seen some interesting proposals, but through Solar for All, even though they're renting the panels, the lease amount is $0 a month. So it's kind of nice because if anything goes wrong with the panels, it's not your responsibility, it'll be the installer's responsibility. And at the end of the lifetime of the panels, you're able to get those down, get those taken down without any fees as well. So yeah. Good question.
Thank you, Marina.
One other thing, sorry,
no,
Jim.
okay.
Both installers, there's two participating installers doing the small residential program for Solar for All right now, and both have a lease to ownership option. So after either 15 or 20 years, you are able to purchase the panels. I think one of the companies, you can buy them for $1 type of thing. So there is potential for ownership if you want that. Now I'm done.
Thanks, Marina. No, that was great. So David, you've made your home more energy efficient. You've taken steps to use more renewable energy. Now you're ready to switch from gas to electric appliances. What exactly does that entail?
Yeah, thank you, Jim, and thank you, Marina. That was very helpful. And I feel like every time I listen to you talk about solar, I learn even more. It's really important, right? Because, I've had this question a lot, hey, why should I switch from a gas furnace to an electric heating device in my home if the grid is going to still be burning natural gas to create electricity? Well, on one part, we're rapidly, cleaning up our grid in Illinois, thanks to CEJA, as was mentioned. But another thing is these appliances tend to be more energy efficient. So even if, so if you move from burning natural gas to heat your home inside your home to burn it to using electricity to heat your home, and that electricity is coming from natural gas, you would still be reducing your carbon footprint, reducing your impact on the planet, as well as saving money, because these systems are more energy efficient. I have a really great slide that shows that in just a moment. But for overall electrification, how do we do it? Well, the largest energy use in our homes is heating our space. And currently, most of us here in Illinois are burning natural gas to do that. We could switch to heat pumps. Heat pumps. That's a somewhat confusing term for anyone who's not familiar with it. Well, we all know how to create heat, right? We can burn natural gas, we can burn logs, we can run electricity through electric wiring. We can even rub our hands together really, really fast to create heat. We know how to create heat. How do you create cold? Well, you can't actually create cold, because cold is the absence of heat. So how does a refrigerator work? Well, a refrigerator works by moving the heat that's within it outside of it. And a freezer works by doing it even more than the refrigerator does. That's why if you put your hands at the back or in the bottom of your refrigerator, you can feel warm air coming out. Now, some of that warm air is just the system running, but most of that warm air is warm air that was, or warmth or heat energy that used to be inside the fridge. So how does a heat pump work? The same way as your refrigerator works. It moves heat instead of creating heat, which is one of the reasons why it's more energy efficient. So the two main ways to do this is to take the heat in your home on a hot day and to move it outside into the outside air, or conversely, on a cold day, taking the heat outside and bringing it into your home. Now, wait a second. If it's 30 degrees outside, how do I get my home to a comfortable, 68 to 72 degrees? Well, we all are from Illinois. We know it can get much colder than 30 degrees. That means there's still heat energy in the air, and specifically cold climate air source heat pumps are designed to take heat even from minus 15 degrees and bring it inside the home. Now, geothermal is the other way to do it, which takes heat out of the ground. The nice thing is underground, there's no seasons. It's a balmy 52 degrees year round. So there's a lot of heat energy in there to bring it into your home. And then conversely, in the summer, to take the heat and put it back underground. And the nice thing about geothermal heat pumps in particular is that they also heat your water. So heat pumps replace your heater and your air conditioning, your cooling, and then for geothermal, also your water heating, and they do it better than your heater. They do it better than your air conditioner, and for geothermal, does it better than your water heater. So it's real nice. It cuts down the number of appliances, which of course saves you money on the maintenance, and it's just more energy efficient. The next biggest use of energy in our homes tends to be water heating. Right now, most of us in Illinois are heating our water with natural gas. But if you're not doing geothermal, you could still switch to an electric heat pump water heater, which is the latest and the greatest, most energy efficient ways to do this. Gas stoves, we talked a little bit about them. I'll go more in depth in a few slides to switching to an induction stove, and then a gas clothes dryer to an electric clothes dryer, or even a heat pump clothes dryer. So why do we want to do this? We've hit these already, but it's worth foot stomping again. First and foremost, affordability. If it wasn't going to save us money, it'd be hard to get widespread adoption. Climate and our health. So for affordability, Jim brought this up very, very early in the beginning. The prices of natural gas have skyrocketed over the last 2 years. Now, fortunately, we have seen relief in the last few months, but most analysis shows that natural gas is only, if you look at it from a little bit further outcome, for the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see those prices continue to go up. Why are they currently still high? Well, the Russian invasion of Ukraine had a huge impact against the global market for natural gas. American companies started selling and exporting natural gas at higher rates, which means, our prices went up. And extreme weather has had huge impacts on mining and on natural gas power plants. In fact, in the December blizzard that we had, 70% of the power plants that failed were natural gas power plants. So much for that reliability myth that the gas industry is pushing on us. And then the increased cost of mining. The reason why we've had such low natural gas prices relatively over the last 10 years is because of fracking, which was a new way to reach harder to get natural gas from underground, but it's had immense impacts on the local community with particularly water pollution and creating more earthquakes. So as people are more and more aware of the dangers and the negative externalities or outcomes from fracking, people are putting up more and more resistance because nobody wants that in their backyard. So the increased cost of mining are also going to contribute to the growing price of natural gas. So electrification, energy efficiency. So if we look at the far left bar graph, which is specific to ComEd territory, we have the right propane. Not many Illinoisans still use propane, but it is the most expensive out of these four options. And then natural gas, as we can see, it's not as energy efficient as using an air source heat pump or a geothermal heat pump, which of course contributes to why it's more expensive, because it requires more energy to do the same result. So this is a really nice graph, and it's for the entire Midwest, so it will fluctuate a little bit. The bottom bar on all of these is, for the gray, is the cost of heating, the cost of lights and appliances. So that's why it's pretty much the same for all of these, regardless if you're burning oil, burning propane, using an 80% efficient natural gas. That's the fifth column on this chart. That's what most of us in Northern Illinois have. In fact, most of us in Illinois have. And then also a 10-SEER air conditioner. That's what most of us have. So that's where we're sitting right there. Now, if you've purchased a new natural gas furnace or air conditioner in the last 5 years or so, and you spent extra money, you might have as good as a 93% efficient natural gas furnace or a 16-SEER air conditioner, moving you into that fourth column. So if you were to replace these with a more efficient 16-SEER air source heat pump or geothermal, you'd start to see your heating, which is the red, or your cooling prices start to go down. Now, and then geothermal, you also see that brown color decrease because it also provides that water heating. Now, this chart is not necessarily accurate for Illinois, because if you're in ComEd territory, they will actually reduce your electricity cost for everything in your home if you use electric heating, which includes air source heat pumps and geothermal heat pumps. So in fact, even that gray bar would decrease, because watching TV becomes cheaper for you if you heat your home with electricity in ComEd territory, which is really fantastic. So just a really great way to see that there is immense cost savings if you move to electrification. Rebates. I don't want to spend too much time here. We have a really wonderful guide that spends a lot of information on this, but there are Inflation Reduction Act electrification rebates that should start in May 2024. This is federal money, $263.6 million worth for the state of Illinois, that'll be administered by the state of Illinois. How it works is, if you make 80% of that area median income, you can claim a rebate covering the full price of an electric appliance up to $14,000 a year and up to that certain amount, which I have in the next slide. And this isn't just for low income, it's also for moderate income. So if you make up to 150% of that area median income, you can cover 50% of the cost of appliance for the same amount. And you can look up your area median income at that link at the bottom of the slide. So those individual amounts I was talking about. So if you buy a new electric stove, up to $840. If you're going to buy an air source heat pump, up to $8,000. So there's some significant money here that should be available next summer, which, once again, when we're talking about those steps, the first step of energy efficiency and having that home energy audit, and then changing when you use electricity, these all work together, especially because you could start to make your plans now for these rebates and then make your purchase next spring, next summer, when these rebates are available. The next thing after affordability is the climate. This just shows, once again, focusing on the ComEd, Illinois on the left here. If you're switching from natural gas to, say, geothermal, you're saving about 3.5 metric tons of carbon emissions per year. To put that in context, if you go from a typical Midwestern diet to a vegetarian diet, you save about 1 carbon metric ton per year. That's a lot, But that's a very hard decision for a lot of Midwesterners who've raised on a meat-focused culture to make. If you go geothermal, you would have 3.5 times as much impact as becoming a vegetarian. Not encourage you to go vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian myself, but a lot of people would find switching their appliance out much easier. So just wanted to point out how really electrification can have huge climate benefits. The next big piece is the health, right? We spend up to 90% of our time indoors, and in the winter, some of us spend 99% of our times indoors. And the indoor air pollution can be between 2 to 100 times worse than it is outside, which is crazy because we all think about it when we leave our homes, but we don't think about it in our homes. You know, when we're walking near a heavy car highway, you know, we can feel the air, and you know, you can feel it on your skin, you can feel it in your lungs. You don't like it, but in fact, it could be way worse inside your homes, and that's something we don't think about. This is typically the case if you have a gas stove in your home. There was a study recently that showed direct attribution from gas stoves to asthma in Illinois. 21% of childhood asthma cases were directly caused by having a gas stove in the home, which is crazy. And then, of course, kids in a home with a gas cooking have a 42% increased risk of asthma and other respiratory illnesses, which is devastating. It's not something we think about, right? We think about lead paint on the walls. We think about lead water pipes when we're thinking about the safety of our kids, but there's also the gas stoves in our homes. Now, there's a lot of people who believe that gas stoves just cook better, and so maybe it's worth keeping. But that's compared to the old electric wire, electric resistant stoves. If we compare them to the new induction stoves, they tend to be much better on every single measurable level. So when it talks about time to cook your food, if you're boiling 8 quarts of water, which is 2 gallons of water, natural gas will take on average 18.6 minutes. But on an electric induction stove, only 9.3 minutes. So it's a big time saver. And of course, that also contributes to energy efficiency. Now, a lot of people like the gas stove instead of the old electric stoves because you can change just by moving your fingers. You can literally see the fire get smaller, right? So I can boil something and I can bring it down to simmering real fast. But actually, you could do it even faster with electric induction. So it gives you more control over the stove, which is fantastic. And when you're cooking with natural gas, most of that heat actually goes into your kitchen instead of towards your food. Only 32% goes to your food, where 85% of electric induction goes to your food. So across every measurable level, an induction stove is better. One concern here is that induction stoves require magnetic pots and pans that work with magnets. So aluminum doesn't work, as well as if you're using a glass stove, those won't work on an induction stove because they work via magnets. But that also means that they're safer. You could turn it on high, put your bare hand on it, and you won't feel any heat. You won't get burned at all. Now, if you have a ring on your hand and you put your hand on that stove, you can get burned. And of course, if you've been cooking on it for a long time and then you move the pan off of it and you touch it, it'll still be hot because there's a hot pan on it for the last hour. But it cools down much faster, so it is much safer for your home, especially if you have little kids around. How much is this going to cost me, though? So the upfront cost for induction stoves, they start about $1,100 all the way up to $5,000 for the latest high-end models. But I think most people who just like to cook would probably go with the $1,100 model. And then most gas stoves have a 110 volt outlet behind it, so it requires an upgrade to a 220 volt outlet. So you could say the upfront cost is going to be about $1,250 with that upgrade on the back end. Now there's rebates, and the blue font is if you have 80% or lower area median income, and the green is if you have 150% area median income or lower. And you can see the rebates start to really help. Additionally, ComEd will give you $100 for making the switch. So you can see the total cost to homeowners either $260, $625, or if you make more than 150% of the area median income, the $1,250. Yearly estimated saving, because it is more energy efficient, is $20. So your return on investment is potentially 13 to 31 years. That's just looking at it from the energy perspective and not looking at it from the health perspective, which is probably the most important decision when it comes to switching to an induction stove.
Hey, David, we have just a few minutes left. I'm wondering, do you have enough time to finish your presentation? I want to just make sure.
I think so. So geothermal heat pumps, we talked about them a lot. They also last a lot longer. If you're interested, you can go to growgeo.org, where we are currently in a geothermal heat pump program where you can save even more money and have a really strong consumer protection guide. I'll put that link in the chat in just a moment. Here's the expenses of it, but all of that can be found on the website as well. Bottom line, you can see immense savings and actually a return on investment instead of just heating your home as a consumable furnace. And that is it.
David, that was great. I mean, wow, you got through all that. That was amazing. Does anybody have any questions? One thing I do want to point out is that Garrick, and thank you, Elizabeth, for putting Grow Geo Chicagoland in there, and growgeo.org. Thank you, David. Garrick had a great question asking about the difference between, it touched on the difference between alternative supplier offers when people go to door, and community solar offers. And it just so happens that Marina wrote a great blog about that just recently. She put that in the chat. Again, if you do have follow-up questions, you can always give us a call at 1-800-669-5556. We'd be happy to answer your questions. If you want to, you can ask for Jim. I'm the only Jim there. And I will make sure that all these smart people get your questions and that they get answered. So we have a little bit of time. We're ending here, but I want to make sure that we do the giveaway. So Elizabeth, I'm wondering if you could let us know who the winner is. We're doing 3 giveaways. We're doing a $25 gift card and another $25 gift card, and then the grand finale is a $25 gift card and a kilowatt, which is this great device that allows you to find out how much each of your individual appliances, how much energy they're eating up. So.
All right, looks like our first winner is Dick Dunlap. Congratulations, we can get in touch with you and give you the prize. There's 3 prizes?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do another one. And that
Congratulations,
is 9, which is Garrick Falk.
Garrick, all right. $25 gift card for Garrick. And then one final one.
Last is number 21. Robert Troyer.
Troy. Congratulations, Robert. Mr. Dunlap, you win a $25 gift card. Garrick, you win a $25 gift card. And Robert, you are the proud owner of a $25 gift card and a device called the Kilowatt. We have your information. We will reach out to you and get you all of the, we'll get you these prizes. So congratulations. Let me say, looks like we do have some questions here. Conrad asks, is there a reason that virtually all available heat pump clothes dryers, with the exception of one Whirlpool model with mixed reviews, are considerably smaller than gas or electric resistance dryers? Or is that expected to change as more people seek them out?
Really great question, Conrad. So I do expect it to change. Heat pump dryers are very new. They're, a relatively recent invention. There are electric resistance dryers out there that, are the same exact size as the gas. And I think those have been around for a long time. So I do expect it to change significantly in the near future, especially as all these rebates become available and it drives a huge purchasing spree of them. The reason why they're smaller, I don't know that answer. You've stumped me. I'll do some research and I will get back to you.
Thanks, David. And Conrad, if you need to, you can reach out to CUB and so we can get some follow-up answers for you. And Carla has a question. Is there any maintenance required for rooftop solar panels?
So not really. The great thing about solar is the panels really just sit there. and there's no mechanics, they don't move, so not too much maintenance. The only things you may run into is if something electrical wears out or needs to be replaced. Sometimes people have to replace maybe 1 or 2 micro optimizers or power optimizers like over the lifetime of a panel. But a lot of people ask, do panels need to be cleaned? Usually the rain does that just fine. So we don't really recommend people getting up on their roofs and cleaning their panels.
Thank you, Marina. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, all the panelists, Sam, David, Marina, you did a great job. Elizabeth, thanks for running things behind the scenes. Just a couple quick things is stay tuned. We're going to be putting out news releases in the next couple of weeks. We're all about the solar group buy program on June 5th. There's going to be a launch and we're going to put out a news release about that. And we'll have that on our website. Also on June 1st, it's a big date. It's the new power prices for ComEd and Ameren. Certainly hoping that those prices come down. We've been hearing good things, some about how the capacity market auctions went down in central and southern Illinois. There was a tremendous drop in the capacity price. So we're hoping but we'll see what happens. We got another question from Jim. Is heat pump water heater better than a whole house on-demand electric? Or are those even possible? He said this would be just for 2 people, no dishwasher, just use hot water for dishes and showers.
Jim, thanks for the question. I think there's a lot of nuance in that question. So I think we should probably discuss it a little bit offline to do a comparison between the 2 options, because it's going to depend a lot on individual home and individual cost of appliances.
So Jim, I think I can foresee a big discussion with David in the future, in the near future. So thank you for all your good questions. Thank you everybody for all your good questions. So this event, like all services we hold, that's free. There's no obligation, but if you want to give a small donation today or in the near future, please, our legal team could definitely use that as they challenge $3.7 billion in rate hikes. If you ever have a question, a concern, or a complaint about your utility service, please don't hesitate to call the Consumer Advocacy Department at 1-800-669-5556. The people who work in that department are heroes. They just do great work on a daily basis, answering the phone. So once again, big thank you to everybody for all your support, for all your great questions, and for your interest in these important issues. We really appreciate it. Have a great night, and thank you.